Once again, a very warm good evening. I, on behalf of the Moot Court Society Campus Law Center, welcome you all to the Orientation Program 2021. My name is Suruchi and I am the student convener of the Moot Court Society Campus Law Center for the academic year 2020 and 2021. And I hope that most of you, I request everyone to keep your mics on mute. Yeah. So I hope that most of you are already aware of the basic functionalities of the Moot Court Society as the same has already been presented to you by our teacher convener, Dr. Harleen Kaur, in the earlier orientation session. So the basic agenda for today's session is to tell you the basics about the moot courts and how to do moots. And for that, we shall also be hosting a moot court demonstration. And I believe that today's session will act as a strong ground for all of the first years in their mooting venture. So moving ahead, a society is built by its members. And I would like to take this opportunity to introduce the Executive Committee of the Moot Court Society Campus Law Center 2021. We will be starting off with our teacher committee members. We have Dr. Harleen Kaur as the teacher convener to head the society. Along with her, we have Dr. Anita Yadav, Ms. Rubina Grewal, Ms. Apanjot Kaur, Mr. Vijoy V. Panikkar, Mr. Harris Jamil, and Ms. Mehpara as the teacher members of the Executive Committee 2021. Now, moving ahead with the student committee, as I've already stated earlier, my name is Suruchi and I'm the student convener of the Moot Court Society. And I am supported and guided by my team, which comprises of the following: Sabyasachi Narayan, Shrikant Verma.
Suruchi, you were not audible.
I'm so sorry. Am I audible now?
No, yeah.
Okay. So I'll just introduce the Student Executive Committee. I, Suruchi, am the convener of the Moot Court Society for the academic year 2020 to 2021. And I am supported and guided by the following executive student members. We have Sabyasachi Narayanan, Shrikant Verma, Surbhi Arora, Nikita Ahalyan, Prerna Luthra as the third year executive members. And we have Shaurya Gupta, Madhav Goyal, Krishika Gajmer, Soumya Suri, Nitesh Saroha, Tanisha Kohli, Rushika Rabha, and Mahika Pant as the second year executive members. I would like to convey to all the freshers, the first year, that the major role of the executive committee is to assist and guide you throughout your mooting journeys. And I hope you have amazing 3 years in Campus Law Center. With this, I would like to invite our teacher member, Mr. Vijoy V. Panikkar, to give the welcome address.
Thank you, Suruchi. Am I audible?
Yes, sir, you are.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay. So, a very good evening to our judges, Mr. Karthik Lahoti, Mr. Abhay Singh, my learned colleagues, and dear students. First of all, I take this opportunity to thank all of you for being present here in this event. And of course, with respect to our Moot Court Society, it is needless to say, it is one of the most vibrant and prestigious bodies in the Campus Law Center. And one of the best examples of its vibrancy could be seen in the success of last Luthra and Luthra International Moot Court competition, which was held successfully. That was also through online platform, despite the challenges posed by the COVID-19 global pandemic. And our student members of the Moot Court Society have won, in fact, many prestigious competitions and titles over the past several years. And I believe the Moot Court Society is one of the very important body in every law schools, due to the fact that it helps the students to enhance their legal knowledge, draft skills, legal research, and also gives them a real court experience prior to their enrollment in the bar. Hence, this event is also very important, and I express my heartfelt gratitude to our judges for being here despite their busy professional schedule. And I'm also very glad to know that our judges today are the former executive members of our Moot Court Society, and I believe they must be very happy to be associated with their parental institution. And with this, I would like to extend a warm welcome to our judges, Mr. Karthik Lahoti and Mr. Abhay Singh on behalf of the Moot Court Society of Campus Law Center. And I would also like to extend a warm welcome to my learned colleagues, the teacher convener or faculty convener, Dr. Harleen Kaur, the other faculty members, Dr. Anita Yadav, Ms. Apanchot Kaur, Ms. Mahparahak, Ms. Rubina Grewal Nagra, and Mr. Haris Jamil. As we all know, the Moot Court Society is a student-run body, and my responsibility would be incomplete without welcoming our dear students into this program. Welcome, dear students. Welcome everyone to the orientation program of Moot Court Society of Campus Law Center 2021. Thank you all.
Thank you, sir. We will be proceeding with our Moot Court demonstration. To present the demonstration, we have with us Shaurya Gupta, Madhav Goyal, Astha Shukla, and Arushi Yadav as the student members who will be the speakers for the Moot Court. And to judge this event, as our teacher member has already introduced, we have amongst us Mr. Karthik Lahoti and Mr. Abhay Singh, who are currently practicing advocates and also former executive members of the societies. So we will just begin with the Moot Court demonstration now. I request all other executive members and teacher members to turn off their cameras. Ms. Soumya Suri will be acting as the timekeeper for the Moot Court demonstration. I would request her to announce the code.
With your Lordship's permission, we may start with the Moot Court proceedings.
Yes, please.
Your Lordships, if the Council is audible and visible, I seek your permission to commence with the proceedings.
Yes, you may.
Much obliged, Your Lordships. Your Lordships, today I, with my co-counsel, am knocking at the doors of this honorable court to further the complaint of the person I'm representing, Mr. Bipin. Your Lordships, at the very outset, I would like to clarify that we submit to the jurisdiction of this honorable court as defined under sections 179, read with section 26, clause A, subclause 3 of the Code of Criminal Procedure 1973. Your Lordships, today I will be presenting on the issue as to whether the publication of a comic strip by Ms. Anjali, the owner of Raw Comics on Twitter, constitutes defamation as defined under sections 499 of the IPC. And my co-counsel will be dealing with the issue of can the defendant claim acquittal under exception 1 to section 499 of the IPC, and as to whether section 34 of the IPC is being attracted to the case under trial. Your Lordships, do I have your permission to recite the relevant facts?
Yes, you have.
Yes.
Much obliged, Your Lordships. Your Lordships, my client, Mr. Bipin, is a two-time MLA who has been serving in the cabinet of the state of Maharashtra. Your Lordship, he is a very respectable politician whose father is being revered by the title of Guruji in the state. Your Lordships, the state of Maharashtra consists of very politically active citizens, and particularly in the district from where my client was running for elections in Kailashpada, the citizens are very politically active and have a pulse on the political activities of the state. Your Lordships, my client was running from the state of Kailashpada and in the 2019 elections. And just a day before the elections, on March 30th, Raw Comics, a Twitter handle, basically Raw Comics, which is an online publication blog, an independent journalist, she comes out with a comic strip, which essentially shows that my client as a bigot. The comic strip basically is showing my client as someone regressive. Your Lordship, my client's political party has been shown to have regressive ideologies, but my client has actively worked to expel this ideology. He has conducted multiple he has basically run on the platform which furthers women's right and women's decisional autonomy. But now this comic strip is basically alleging that my client forced her daughter-in-law to undergo a virginity test because of his regressive ideology to want a daughter-in-law who is virgin before marriage. Your Lordship, there is no ground for the comic strip to have basically published this publication because there was no credible evidence. Your Lordship, the defense in this particular case has basically published this comic strip without a shred of evidence, without undergoing the basic norms of journalism that should have been adhered to. Your Lordships, I now remark at the decision of Justice Satasivam in the case of Jessica Lal murder case, where the division bench of the Apex Court of India had basically remarked that the media should maintain a fine line between trial by media and informative media. When the trial by media start, it impinges upon the Article 21 rights of the accused because the presumption of innocence is already burdened down. Your Lordship, this is what has happened. My client has lost his election in the state. He has lost his chance to form the government of the state. The public has been denuded of their right to have an able leader lead them, all because a single journalist wanted to, in haste and under the impression that she was doing this for public good, posted this particular comic strip. Your Lordship, in an outside opinion poll which was conducted, my client was leading right before the elections in the month of March itself. But as soon as the exit polls after the publication of this comic strip, which was heavily retweeted and heavily commented upon by the opposition and the media streams alike, which basically showed this particular comic strip again and again, my client's credibility was ramshackled. And what resulted was that in the exit polls right after the election, we see that the leader, that the main opposition party, the Apna party's leader, Mr. Ganesh, is seen to be leading in these exit polls. And later on, when the result is declared on April 1, what do we see? But an approval that the public did follow these claims, these ostensible claims made by Ms. Anjali, wherein she's seen showing my client as regressive. And what does she have as material to corroborate her claim? She says that she's relying upon what some other independent journalists had alleged, and that she had some video footage which the police itself and the defense itself admits is very blurry, and nobody can actually be made out in that. And your Lordships, even on that ground, in the case of R.R. Gopal versus State of Tamil Nadu, the Apex
Learned Counsel, you're mixing up your facts with your submissions. We want just a brief certain facts. Could you just state that you're just mixing up the submissions? If you want to jump into submissions, you can proceed with that.
Much apologies, Your Lordships. Your Lordships, the fact of the issue are simply here that if I would like to present a timeline, the elections to the state were to be held. What happened was that right before the election, she comes up with a comic strip which shows that my client has a regressive ideology. My client has been trying to dispel that ideology by going into multiple functions wherein he is promoting women's autonomy and women's decisional right. Your Lordship, once this comic strip comes down, what has been seen as that right before the elections in the month of March, my client was leading as the external polls were showing that my client was leading in the vote share. But what happens is that right after this comic strip comes, just a day prior to the election, which is being retweeted numerous times. It has been liked by 1.5 lakh people and retweeted more than 1 lakh times. And numerous mainstream news media sources picked up on this after this. The opposition has basically using this to defame my client, what is seen is that in the elections, in the exit polls, the opposition is leading. And right after at the results time, it is seen that the opposite party has won by a major victory. And this is so because of this particular comic strip, which has basically swayed the momentum of the entire election. Now, Your Lordships, if I could continue with the submissions.
Yes, you may.
Much obliged, Your Lordships. So, Your Lordships, as I was saying, that the whole point of contention that Ms. Anjali seems to have is that my client wanted to conduct a virginity test on his daughter-in-law to be and went to a particular Bishop Health clinic for this purposes. Your Lordships, she had no credible information for this. She did not think twice before publishing this. She did not act in good faith because there was no due care and attention as mandated by Section 52 of the Indian Penal Code. Your Lordship, she could have called and confirmed to my client as to why they went there. She did nothing of that sort, but she instead, for whatever sensational purposes or for whatever purposes unknown to us, she thought of publishing this on Twitter handle. Your Lordships, in the case of R.R. Gopal versus the state of Tamil Nadu, the Supreme Court has said that every person has the right to be alone, the right to safeguard the privacy of one's family, of one's marriage, procreation, education, amongst other things. Your Lordship, my client had simply gone to that clinic in such an obscure fashion because he knew that if the media got news of him, of his family, basically going to this clinic, they would just basically try to create something which was not existent. Your Lordship, he went there because they just wanted, we all know that Indiana weddings, Your Lordship, the council seeks an extension of a minute.
Yes, you can have it. You can have 1 more minute.
Much obliged, Your Lordships. Your Lordships, they had gone to that basically gone to that health clinic because, as we all know, that Indiana weddings are a very exhaustive event. They just wanted to be sure that there are no health problems which would play spoil sport with the wedding. Your Lordships, my client is being portrayed as regressive, but I asked this court the question that if he was regressive, would he have asked a male doctor to conduct such a exam which is as invasive as a virginity test to be performed on his daughter-in-law? Would he have? Never, Your Lordships, never. Your Lordship, this is a case of media trial and my client is being defamed. The relevant portion of Section 499, if I may read it, is whoever by visible representation publishes any imputation knowing or having reason to believe that such reputation will harm the reputation of such person is said to have defamed the person. Your Lordship, it is also a fact that there need not be any real impact, but a mere allegation, but a mere knowledge that the person who so defamed should have had, that this would result in defamation. Your Lordship, this is present over here. The election was lost. Your Lordships, if there are no further questions, I would now call upon my co-counsel to present her issues.
Learned counsel, so you're relating the loss of your elections with the defamation, is it right?
Yes,
the
Your
loss
Lordship.
of election is been related to the defamation. So in case if there was no loss in the election, so there would have been no case of defamation. Do you agree?
No, Your Lordship, with humbly, I do not agree with this particular point. I would like to re-clarify if Your Lordships would refer to... You may
re-clarify later. The next submission may continue.
Your Lordships, I would like to call upon my co-counsel to present our issues.
Your Lordships, am I audible and visible?
Yes, you are. Please.
Good afternoon, Your Lordship. I am the co-counsel for the complainant, and I shall be dealing with issue number 2 and issue number 3 of those concerning with the defendant seeking the exception 1 to Section 499 and the applicability of Section 34 of the Indian Penal Code to the facts of the present case. If Your Lordships do not have any preliminary inquiries, the council would seek permission to continue with the submissions.
No, just one question. You're saying exception 1 to Section 499 and not exception 9 to Section 499. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Lordship. The facts of the case, the facts of the case that are in hand, the defendants have claimed a very limited relief under exception 1 to Section 499. However, the council during the course of her submissions will clarify other exceptions too for the sake of the arguments. That is there.
Just for the sake of brevity, I would like to tell you that I want you to specifically deal with exception 9 also.
Noted, your lordships. The
With your
council-
arguments, but during them, please deal with exception 9.
Noted, your lordships. The councils would do that. Moving ahead with the submission, your lordships, without prejudice to a previous argument wherein the councils are proving that section 499 of the Indian Penal Code is being attracted here, and for the lucidity of the proceedings, the councils will prove the exception to that the defendants do not qualify under exception 1 of section 499. In the usual course of nature, the burden of proving this exception is upon the defendants and not the prosecution. Your lordship, section 499 provides for 10 exceptions within it, and if a statement falls within those 10 exceptions, then it is protected from the case of defamation. Particularly starting with exception 1 to section 499, it gives a dual prong that is there. Firstly, that this alleged imputation is to be true, and secondly, that the publication has to be made in good faith. Starting ahead with the first prong that I just mentioned, that the alleged imputation is to be true. Your lordships, the truth is to be seen for the entire libel and not a part of the libel. Applying the law to the facts of the present case, your lordships, Miss Anjali, who proceeded to make a comic strip out of sources of non-mainstream media blogs, whereas on the other hand, mainstream media blogs specifically restrained from publishing any news of the virginity test happening because they hadn't independently verified the news. Your lordships, if we see the events in the larger scheme of things, publication of the comic strip right before the elections, 1 day before the elections, when my client would not have ample opportunity to refute this particular news, plus in a manner which was not verified, this haste and not showing restraint does raise a doubt that this particular imputation is not the truth. Your lordships, moving ahead on this particular submission in line with the facts only, the police investigation itself does not show that the clinic that Mr. Bipin, Mr. Bunty and Ms. Kuku visited indulged in this particular class of tests that have been claimed virginity tests. Moreover, the basis of the argument of Miss Anjali, who says that she has CCTV recordings with her to show that a certain couple was exiting the Be Sure Health Clinic, our clients are not denying the fact. Our argument is not that the medical proceedings didn't happen. We are admitting to this particular fact. We have admitted to in the pre-summoning evidence that yes, a test had happened. Yes, medical tests had happened. The other 3 witnesses that are being cited, Mr. Malcolm, Mr. Kanta, and Mr. Majid, have also in their statements to the police and then the court have very clearly indicated that no such traces of a virginity test being held or a test that is detrimental to the autonomy that a lady holds over a body was in the line or was in the place of discussion. Your lordships, in the case of Lakshman Singh versus King, and in the words of the eminent jurist Shri Hari Singh Gaur, it is said that whenever a doubt is raised, if the statement is true or not, the exception cannot be raised. That is to say that the prosecution admits that yes, the proof of evidence, the proof of evidence of this truth that is cast upon the defense is limited in comparison to the prosecution. However, there has to be a substantial truth that has to be there. There has to be a backing to the claims that are being made. Therefore, in light of these submissions that we have just mentioned, that we humbly submit that the defendants cannot claim exception 1 to section 499 of the Indian Penal Code. Moving ahead to lordship's query on exception 9 of the section 499 of Indian Penal Code. Your excellencies, exception 9 has to be dealt with when there's a belief that some public good is being taken out of this imputation that is made. Your excellencies, this public good is further defined to your excellencies, public good cannot be read as believed. You know that the person believed that her imputation would result in public good. This reading of the word belief cannot be there. And whereas if we look at the facts of the present case, Ms. Anjali very categorically has claimed that she believed that it was a duty upon seeing from the non-mainstream blogs that she needs to go and publish this particular comic strip so to apply to the public of the tests that were happening. However, your lordships, without backing of any facts, without backing of any figures, the reputation of my client was coming into coming into question, and therefore to jeopardize the greatest assets that a man has, his reputation, without such backing, it cannot be said to be public good in any extent. Just to quickly cover other exceptions too, which use the term good faith. As very rightly pointed out by my co-counsel, the term good faith under IPC requires due care and attention. This due care and attention cannot be read alongside the policy of honesty and integration that we talk about in day-to-day life. That is not the case here. Once there was no reason, once there was no attempt by the defense to reach to the truth of the statement, the idea of good faith ends there and then and there, and therefore those exceptions cannot be claimed either. If your lordships allow, the council would like to move towards the last issue of section 34 being attracted in this particular case.
Learned counsel, what are the ingredients of section 34?
Section 30, your lordship, section 34 talks about common intention to be present, that there has to be a pre-meeting of minds before a crime is conducted. There is not a need for an overt or a covert act. There's not a need for an overt act to be there. However, the common intention needs to be there. It is distinguished from common object that we hear. That it is the need of common intention and the constructive liability, the policy of constructive liability that comes into play when we're talking about section 34. Your lordships, the council seeks extension of 2 minutes, one for the prayer, if your lordships admit, and one for the submissions.
Granted.
Your lordship, moving ahead with section 34. Section 34 does not require that each and every individual must have done the act and any overt act, but there has to be, like I mentioned before, but there has to be a common meeting of mind. The position at which the individuals were employed at, the directors of the company, are said to be in a very high position, are said to be in a position of responsibility, who should have the moral understanding and moral conscience to check upon the activities of an agency that was being done. Therefore, to say that a comic strip was released right before the elections for a candidate who's running for the post of CM, and the directors not knowing that such a comic strip has been published, or the permission not taken from the directors, or even once the complaints were made, the silence of the directors that was there of not coming out or clarifying that they do not associate with this particular act that has been done in the name of the agency, clearly indicates that there was a meeting of mind, and it was an act that was done by the common intention of all the three people, Miss Anjali and the other two directors that we are talking about, your lordships. Your lordships, the councils would request the permission to say the prayer.
I just have one small question. What do you think are the parties in this particular case? Who are the defendants in this particular case?
Your lordships, the defendants in this particular case, the complaint that has been registered was against Miss Anjali and the two directors both.
And not RAW?
Your lordships, the company is being sued in addition, the agency is being sued in addition to the head of the agency, Miss Anjali.
So in this criminal proceedings, is RAW a party or not? So that we can decide accordingly, we'll move ahead if you say that they are not a party here. If they are, please enlighten me as to how a company can be held accountable criminally.
Your lordship, thank you for the question, much obliged. The company is made up of the people it constitutes. The company, in the decision that was given by the Supreme Court in the case of Motorola versus Iridium, the company is capable of having a mens rea attached to it. Therefore, the alter ego of the company that is to be taken is to be the acts of the directors and the members that are there. Therefore, once the company is said to have the mens rea, which is a very substantial element of the crime of defamation, the company can be sued in that nature. The past concept that a company cannot be sued is no longer a good law, your lordship.
What relief would you claim against RAW?
Your lordships, if your lordships allow us to say the prayer, probably it would reflect.
Please.
Thank you, your lordships. Thank you, your lordships. It is hereinafter most humbly prayed before this honorable court that in light of the issues raised, arguments advanced, authorities cited, and the pleadings made, the honorable court may be pleased that the actions of the defendants are liable to be punished under section 500 of the Indian Penal Code, and find that the actions of the defendants are jointly liable under section 34 of the Indian Penal Code. The honorable court may be pleased to pass any other order as it may deem fit in the interest of justice, equity, and good conscience, and the complainant shall forever beseech the honorable court for its cognitive consideration. Your lordships, it was a pleasure arguing before this bench. If your lordships allow,
Yes.
the councils would like to rest their submissions.
Okay.
Your lordships, is the counsel for the defendants audible?
Yes, audible and
Yes.
visible.
Yeah.
Much obliged. Your lordships, with your permission, I'd like to proceed with a few details about the case and then towards the arguments.
Are these
You already,
different? Yes, Abhay, please, you go on.
I think we already know the facts. In case you want to add something else, you can tell us.
Your lordships, I don't think, since your lordships are well versed with the facts, just wanted to, we just directly proceed to the issues at hand, your lordships, with your
Yes, we
permission.
can. Yes, you can.
So, your lordships, as you know, my client whom me and my co-counsel will be defending, the defendants in the case, Miss Anjali, her agency RAW, and its two directors are being charged with the offence of defamation under section 500 of the IPC, read with section 34. Now, your lordships, we will be canvassing 4 issues before your lordships. The first 2 will be argued by me, and the other 2 will be argued by my co-counsel. Your lordship, the first 2 pertain to the concept of vicarious liability and how it does not hold in criminal law. The second is the reliability of testimonies of Mr. Bunty, Mr. Bipin, Ms. Kuku, who are the Mr. Bunty. Mr. Bipin is obviously the complainant, and Mr. Bunty is his son, and Ms. Kuku is his daughter-in-law, and Ms. Bhatia, who is the owner of the Be Sure Health Clinic, where this health checkup / virginity test took place. And your lordships, the other 2 issues that will be canvassed by my co-counsel will be the fact that we will argue that Miss Anjali RAW and the directors are protected by the Good Faith Protection Exception 1 under Section 499 of the IPC, as well as Article 19(1) of the Constitution. And your lordships, you will finally canvass that the evidence on the record does not prove beyond reasonable doubt that our clients are guilty of defamation. Your lordships, with your permission, the council would seek to present the submissions with respect to issue number 1.
Yes.
Much obliged, your lordships. Now, your lordships, when it comes to RAW, as it is already clear that through the ruling in the Iridium case, as well as Standard Chartered Bank versus enforcement directed, companies can be held liable for offences that require mens rea. So, your lordships, the council won't be canvassing that issue, and we concede to that extent that yes, companies can be held liable. However, we will prove to this court that there is no offence of defamation made out against Miss Anjali or RAW. Your lordships, when it comes to the charge against 2 directors, your lordships, it's a completely frivolous charge because in criminal law, there is no concept of vicarious liability.
Learned counsel,
Your lordship.
kindly elaborate upon vicarious liability.
Your lordships, vicarious liability is a concept where the agent is held accountable for the act of the principal. Sorry, the other way around. The principal is held accountable for the act of the agent. This is a very commonly established principle in.
So in between 3 directors, who is the principal and who is the agent? Kindly elaborate.
Your lordships, in this case, your lordships, the proposition does not make clear the position of the of Miss Anjali, but otherwise, the position of directors with respect to a company is that it is a very in certain cases they are the agents, they're also the principal. I mean, it's a mixed match situation with regard to their positions. However, your lordships, what the council would like to bring to your attention is that in criminal law in general, there is no concept of vicarious liability, and as has been held in the Supreme Court case of Sunil Bharti Mittal.
Learned counsel, the complainant is not pressing vicarious liability. Why are you defending vicarious liability? We are not able to understand.
Your Lordships, they are presenting a case against against the two directors along with Miss Anjali and Raw. We, Your Lordship, want
Under Section 34. Does Section 34 tells about vicarious liability?
No, Your Lordship, it talks about common intention. However, so my apologies, Your Lordship. Your Lordships, in the case of Sunil Bharti Mittal versus CBI, it has been clearly held that the director can be held liable in two instances. Number one, if there is a statutory provision that makes the director automatically liable for the acts of the company, or in the second case, if there is an active involvement and there is sufficient evidence that shows criminal intent on part of the director. A general accusation that they are guilty is not enough, Your Lordships. In the present case, that is, neither is there an allegation present, neither is there any evidence on the record, and of course there is no statutory provision that automatically makes the directors liable. Your Lordships, there is absolutely no standing, no basis on which Mr. Bipin and the state of Maharashtra is prosecuting the two directors of RAW for criminal liability under Section 500 read with Section 34, Your Lordship. It clearly, Your Lordships, if the court today were to hold them liable, were to hold them guilty and liable, it would be in contravention of the principles very succinctly laid down in the case of Sunil Bharti Mittal versus CBI, which is a much celebrated case now when it comes to the liability of directors, Your Lordship. Your Lordship, moreover, now...
before you proceed, let me put it to you this way. So Sunil Bharti says that in case a section provides that a particular person can be held liable jointly, then they can be held liable, right? Let me put it to you like this. Section 34 shows that if there was a common intention, then they can be held liable. Now, a particular comic strip was published on the page of RAW, right? That is admitted. That was published by Miss Anjali. She could be in any position there. But let's say that she was an agent who published it. And let's not go on to vicarious liability. But before publishing, most certainly the directors have a say in it. Or do you say that directors are not involved in day-to-day functioning and Anjali at her own behest published this?
Your Lordships, there is no general proposition by which we can say that the directors are or are not involved in the day-to-day or every action of a particular, say if this is a comic comic handle, Your Lordships. It could very well be the case that the directors are directly involved and are sort of verifying every tweet that is being sent out by the handle. But it could also be the case that they're not involved and they are essentially silent directors looking at the broad management of the company, Your Lordships. The prosecution has not been able to establish their involvement in passive or active in the so to say criminal acts in any manner, either by way of pleadings, either by way of evidence, etc. Your Lordships, which is why we can submit, Your Lordships, that they should be discharged on the face of it, Your Lordships. Your Lordships, with your permission, the council would like to proceed to issue number 2, Your Lordships.
Okay, please.
Much obliged, Your Lordships. Your Lordships, one major fact that the prosecution is relying on is the testimony of Mr. Bipin, Mr. Bunty, and Miss Kuku, who are all clearly interested witnesses. Of course, Mr. Bipin, because his reputation and his election was on the line, and as his relatives, who are part of the defamatory, allegedly defamatory tweet, Miss Bunty and Mr. Bunty and Miss Kuku are too, and which is why it is important that their testimony be corroborated by reliable and independent witness or evidence, Your Lordships. In this,
Mr. Counsel, they did not place any reliance.
Your Lordships, no, Your Lordships. What we are arguing for you, Your Lordships, is if Your Lordships could have annexure number 3, which is on page 7 of the moot proposition, Your Lordships, that is the statement of the waiter at the restaurant where they met Miss Kanta, Your Lordships. Your Lordships, in their testimony, the 3 members of the family, Mr. Bipin, Mr. Bunty, and Miss Kuku, clearly states that all 3 of them were present. They met Miss Bhatia, and then they decided that there will be a regular health checkup in a private manner because they are public figures. Fair enough, Your Lordships. However, if we look at the testimony of PW2, which is the prosecution witness herself, your lordships, not the defense witness, and she was a waiter at the restaurant at the Claridge's restaurant where everybody agrees that they met. She clearly states in line number 3 and 4 that she met Mr. Bipin, his son, and a third person who I can now identify as DW3. That's a typo, your lordships. That's clearly DW1. That is Miss Bhatia. Your lordships, how can Miss Cuckoo remember being there for a meeting which she was not there for, your lordships? It clearly, this is not a your lordships, with your permission, if I could have 1 minute to round up my submissions, your lordship.
Okay, you may have it.
Much obliged, your lordships. Your lordships, the testimony of PW2 is not in any way impeachable. There is nothing to question her the veracity of her testimony, and this error that whether Miss Cuckoo was present or not is not a technical deficiency in the testimony which can be overlooked by this honorable court, your lordships. It is a clear. It is very evident that the three of them have concocted a story in order, or given a different version to the entire events, that in order to show that, you know, it was a regular health checkup and to prove this case against Miss Anjali for defamation. But the testimony of Miss Kanta clearly shows that Miss Cuckoo was not there, and therefore the testimonies of Mr. Bipin, Mr. Bunty, and Miss Cuckoo cannot be relied upon, because not only are there independent witnesses, but there is reliable testimony to contradict their very testimony itself, your lordships. In fact, Miss Bhatia's initial testimony at the police station was in corroborance with the statement given by Miss Kanta. And while she turned hostile during the, your lordships, just half a minute, your lordships. Your lordships, while she turned hostile, your lordships, this assertion on her part that she left papers blank is not.
While we are on Miss Bhatia's testimony, tell me this: rest of the testimonies which are annexure 3, 4, 2, 3, and 4 have not been signed at the bottom. But this particular testimony has been signed at the bottom. What makes a difference? She already alleges that she was made to sign a blank paper.
Your lordships, let us assume that there is some veracity in that allegation that she was made to sign a blank paper. Number one, your lordship, she's an educated woman who is probably aware of her legal rights and therefore knows the possibility of misuse when it comes to signing a blank paper, your lordships. It could be very well be used not by the police to write a false testimony, but for other purposes as well. Secondly, your lordships, let us assume that they actually made her sign a blank paper. Why would then the police fill out a statement that goes against their very own case, your lordships? Because if that statement is to be believed, then again it would prove the case of the defendant and not that of the prosecution. Why would the police write a statement in its own writing that is harmful for its own case, your lordships? Your lordships, these 2 points are and your lordships, thirdly, there have been allegations that Mr. Bipin has been buying off witnesses to prove the case of defamation, your lordships. Your lordships, while it is still an allegation, it might well be a rumor, but your lordships, given all these 3 things, your lordships, is it possible for the court to conclude that Miss Bhatia's testimony at trial is completely reliable, your lordships?
Okay, you may proceed to the next issue then.
Your lordships, with that, your lordships, the counsel for the first counsel for the defendant would like to rest his case, your lordships. I would like to call upon my co-counsel, Miss Astha Shukla, to present on the remaining 2 issues, your lordships.
Hello.
Much obliged.
If the counsel is visible and audible, the counsel would like to proceed with issue number 3 in the case.
Yes, you may.
The issue number 3 is whether Ms. Anjali, if acting in good faith, is protected by exemption under section 499 of the IPC and article 19(1)(a) of the Indian Constitution. Your lordship, I would like to bring it to your notice that freedom of press is enshrined in article 19(1)(a) of the Indian Constitution. It is an essential freedom, and it is very sensitive to assault, and it is also precious and most volatile. It is a qualified privilege as guaranteed by Article 19. And to claim a qualified privilege, defendant have to show that they have a public or private, legal or moral or social to their intended audience, that they have some sort of a duty to their audience. there are numerous decisions, judgments which have favored transparency in politics, government, and election process as being in the general interest of the public, and the press plays a vital role in functioning of democracy by ensuring such transparency and keeping the public informed. Raw gained popularity because it perceived to be not influenced by any particular political party or outfit. In fact, the public appreciated the courage with which the agency would critique the real life events. And I would like to bring to your notice that Mr. Bipin has been using Raw's tweets to strike at the credibility of his opponents. This goes on to show that people and politicians believed that Raw is an ethical organization. And Miss Anjali, in fact, had acted in good faith, and this cannot be doubted. Her only intention to tweet that was to bring the public image of Mr. Bipin, that he has been a very regressive politician. He's also very conservative. And his sudden turn to be a moderate politician was just an eyewash. And this could have been bought by Miss Anjali only for the public good. And therefore, I must say, Your Lordship, that Miss Anjali can claim a qualified privilege and is protected by freedom of speech and expression under Article 91A of the Indian Constitution.
Let me just stop you at this point. So you are saying that Miss Anjali wanted to show the conservative side of Mr. Bipin. Is that what you're saying?
Your Lordship, the Council is saying that there has been a shift in the nature of Mr. Bipin from conservative to moderate. And it is Miss Anjali believed in good faith. She generally believed in good faith that it was a duty towards the public to show that this was just an eyewash, and that is why when there were surfaces of the virginity test, they conducted an in-depth investigation, and after that only they came up with the tweet.
Learned Council.
Yes, please.
Yes,
Okay, you proceed.
Okay, Learned Council, as per your submissions, it is coming across that your client was personally interested in publishing the article, the comic. Is it? What do you say about it?
Your Lordship, the Council is not saying that Miss Anjali was personally interested in publishing the comic strip. The Council is saying that she believed in good faith that the public needed to know. And good faith is a exception under Section 499, that's exception to defamation. And if a person believes in good faith that they're publishing something and doing good to the general public, they cannot be held liable for defamation.
Council, what if you publish something and it is which is not true? Do you think that would lead to something public good, or that would enhance good faith in your side?
Your Lordship, the act which was done by Miss Anjali, that is my client in this particular case, had been done without any malice and without any malified intention towards Mr. Bipin. And in fact, she has been very critical about all the political parties, and there is nothing, Your Lordship, to show on record that there is a regular health checkup. There was no paper trail. They had come, and it is also to be shown that they were a public figure. Every engagement that they had as a family was in the public knowledge. In fact, the engagement of Miss Cuckoo with his son was also a public knowledge. So, Your Lordship, to maintain this much amount of secrecy for a regular checkup generally raises suspicion on the account, and therefore, Your Lordship, it is when there were concepts, and there was investigation which was done by Miss Anjali, and all of this that she did was in good faith, and hence she should not be liable.
Council, when was this investigation conducted?
Your Lordships,
was there an investigation?
Your Lordship, the facts of the memorial do not mention the date of the investigation.
Yes, but was there an investigation on Miss Anjali's part?
Yes, Your Lordship, there was in fact a thorough investigation which was conducted by Miss Anjali, as has been given in the moot compromise.
Can you find this out? Can you please point out this particular part from the moot compromise?
Yes, Your Lordship. Your Lordship, the Council pleads ignorance in this particular matter.
Okay, allowed.
Your
Abhay,
Lordship,
unless you have a query to that effect, because I believe there is the moot compromise is silent on this particular
No,
aspect.
no, I'm good with it. Yes, let's continue.
the Council would like to proceed with the next part of the exception 9 to section 499 of the Indian Penal Code 1860 reads as follows. Imputation made in good faith by a person for protection of his or others' interest. It is not defamation to make an imputation on the character of another, provided that imputation is made in good faith for the protection of the interest of the person making it or of any other person or for public good. Your Lordship, as has been mentioned as has been shown by my clients, that Miss Anjali had done this particular act of publishing the comic strip in good faith, and hence she is protected by exception 9 of section 499 of the Indian Penal Code. If your Lordships could provide me an extension to complete the submissions.
I think 1 minute would be enough.
Yes, indeed, Your Lordship. Your Lordship, the rights of an individual are not subordinate to the interest of the society. Your Lordship, Your Lordship, Mr. Bipin was contesting for the post of Chief Minister, and it is important that the general public knows what exactly is the Chief Minister like, and nothing, the activity which they're presenting is not an eyewash, and hence the entire activity of publishing the comic strip which was done by Miss Anjali was done in good faith, and hence should not be covered under the act of defamation. Your Lordship, exception number 1 to section 499, which reads as imputation of truth which public good requires to be made or published. In order to claim this exception, she has to show that she had done the act of publishing the comic strip with the best interest of the public in mind. And the interest that Miss Anjali had towards while publishing the comic strip was that she wanted to show the real nature of Mr. Bipin to the public. Apart from that, Your Lordship, I would like to submit that the prosecution has not been able to prove its case beyond reasonable doubt, as is the requirement in the case of prosecution, while the defense has to only prove its case to the preponderance of probability. So once we have shown that there is a preponderance of probability, because there is no evidence adduced in this case which shows that Miss Anjali had any malified intention or malice against Mr. Bipin. There is no testimony to that extent, and hence, yes, Your Lordship.
We appreciate your past record. We appreciate that you have a good intention. I'll give you 30 seconds. Just give me 5 pointers and convince me that the news that you published through the comic was true.
Sorry, Your Lordship, if you could just repeat
the comic information that the comic represented was a truth.
Your Lordship, I would like to submit that there was no paper trail in this particular matter. This, apart from that, this defamation did not actually cause any harm, because there was one day gap between the alleged defamation and the elections. So in one day, the entire factum of the election changed. That cannot be the case, certainly. Apart from that, Your Lordship, there was extreme secrecy which was maintained. Mr. Bhatia has turned hostile in this particular case, and there has been allegation that Mr. Bipin has been buying off witnesses. All these in this particular case show that there has been no case of beyond reasonable doubt by the case of prosecution, which is the duty of the prosecution. And as defense, we just have to show that there was preponderance of probability, and as defense, we do not need to prove the case beyond reasonable doubt. So if Your Lordships may please permit me to say the prayer.
Please.
Much obliged, Your Lordship. In the light of the issues raised, arguments advanced, authorities cited, it is most humbly prayed that in the interest of justice, The Honorable Court may be pleased to acquit Ms. Anjali for committing the offence of defamation under Section 500, read with Section 34 of the Indian Penal Code. Acquit Raw for not committing the offence of defamation under Section 500, read with Section 34 of the Indian Penal Code 1860. Acquit the two directors of Raw for not committing the offence of defamation under Section 500, read with Section 34 of the Indian Penal Code. Pass any order it may deem fit in the interest of justice, equity, and good conscience. It was pleasure arguing before the bench. Much obliged.
Your Lordships, the counsel seeks the permission of the bench to present his rebuttal.
You can, but keep it very brief. We'll give you just 2 minutes.
Much obliged, Your Lordships. I will keep it a very succinct rebuttal. Your Lordships, the defense has argued that the thorough investigation was carried out by Ms. Anjali. I would like to point out to para 8 of the moot compromise, where it very clearly says that seeing the very few blogs it followed coming out with the news and believing that the public had a right to know, they published this, basically saying that it should not be eyewash. They publish it because they see that very few blogs come out with it on 30th of March itself, and it is being published on 30th of March itself. Are these people so fast that they can conduct a thorough investigation in less than 24 hours without even taking a confirmation from my client? No, Your Lordships, they are not. Your Lordships, they follow only a few blogs, it says. They're following more than 2,000 blogs, as we can see from the Twitter handle. Next, Your Lordship, they point out there is no paper trail. Your Lordship, the Supreme Court has already said the right of privacy is a fundamental right. In the case of R.R. Gopal, it was said that the right of having marriage in private is a private affair, and therefore they wanted to do it privately. He's a public figure, and therefore he has the right of maintaining some privacy for his own family. Your Lordship, they're saying that the preponderance of probabilities is in their favor. Your Lordships, they're relying mainly on exceptions. To rely on exceptions, they must admit that defamation has been caused. Once they are pleading exceptions, Section 105 of the Evidence Act places the onus probendi upon the defense itself to prove that the exception is valid over there. Your Lordship, when this defamation section was made by Lord Macaulay, he wanted the truth to be the only exception. It was only through Fox's Libel Act that other exceptions was also included. Your Lordship, is there substantial truth in it? I do not believe so, Your Lordship. Your Lordships, they're saying that the waiter at the restaurant has some there is some contradiction in her testimony. Your Lordship, that testimony was given to police, a 161 statement 19 days later after the event has occurred. And Your Lordship, in that statement itself, the waiter says that I was not allowed to linger there because of the security people. Your Lordship, maybe at the time when she was over there serving or whatever, Miss Cuckoo had gone out to use the facilities for some reason, Your Lordship. Your Lordship, I would simply like to conclude my rebuttal with a simple point that they're saying there should be no malice, there should be no harm. If Your Lordships refer to page 11, it is well established that we need not prove any malice, we need not prove any harm. We only need to prove that there was reason to believe that such imputation would lower the moral character of the person. Whether harm has been caused or not is a superfluous question and need not be answered by the counsel. Your Lordship, with this, I rest my rebuttal. It was a pleasure arguing before the Honorable Bench.
Any sir rebuttals?
Your Lordships, we do not have sir rebuttals.
Okay then.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much to the members, to Arushi, Shaurya, Astha and Madhav for replicating the procedures and intricacies of how a moot court functions. And I hope that the students who've been watching us have understood the basics of how through a mooting process, an issue is framed, arguments are structured, and are subsequently presented before the bench within the time constraints of the rules of a competition. Further, to all the people who've been watching us online or through the live stream, we'd like to tell you that the meeting is being recorded and it will be uploaded on the Facebook page. So no need to worry if there are any audio issues or there are any other discrepancies which are being faced. And also we'll be having multiple sessions and discussions for everyone to get accustomed to this process. So please don't worry. Now, I'd like to pass on my time to Mr. Karthik Lahoti, the former convener of MCS Executive Committee 2018-19, and Mr. Abhay Singh, a former executive committee member of MCS EC 2018-19, who have shelled out their valuable time to be with us today. Both these individuals have been proficient mooters during their college years and have been successful in building a better moot court society in Campus Law Center. Now, I'd request them to please address this gathering and share their valuable insights. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I would like to start by greeting our most respected teachers who are present here. It's because of them that we are there where we are, and it wouldn't be without them. Then I would like to welcome the new batch which is coming in. Believe you me, Campus Law Center is going to give you the best 3 years of your life. The more you invest in it, the more you get out of it. So just a big welcome to you all. And I would like to, beyond words, I would like to congratulate Team MCS. Had we been asked at our time to conduct a virtual moot, this is just an orientation, but they have conducted the entire KK Luthra online. It's a big achievement. We know how many complications they might have faced and how many things they might have gone through. But doing it so smoothly and in such a systematic manner, it's really praiseworthy. And I would also like to congratulate the team which presented today. You have held very, very well during the grilling sessions, and it's really impressive how you were able to answer all the questions without panicking. Congratulations to you all. Now, I would just, because we have invested a lot of time in the demo, and I know how much these addresses bore, and we have been on the other side as well. So I won't be taking much of the time. In fact, when Suruchi asked me, I said I'll just take 5 to 6 minutes. I just want the freshers to know what they are going to look at and how much fun the next 3 years are going to be once they get into the society and into the moot courts and also organizing the moot courts. See, these sessions are there to help you out, to help you understand how it's going to be. But since you have just witnessed a moot court competition, I think most of you might have witnessed it for the first time. So there might be certain questions, I think many questions lurking in your minds. What is a moot court? How do we go about organizing it? How do we go about participating in it? What are the general formalities of it? Many questions might be there, and you will slowly learn about them. You have a fabulous executive committee which will help you out with it. But today I'll just address a pinpointed single issue as to why you should be a part of moot court society, or why should you be participating in moot court competitions. What is a moot court? We have seen just now. Now, when you participate in a moot court competition, you get to prepare the memorials, you get to argue before practicing advocates, many times judges as well, and you get to network with a lot of people. So keeping it very brief, these 3 core skills are very important even in your litigation life. When you litigate, when not just litigation, in your lawyer life, in your professional life in general, you have to have very good drafting skills, which you learn by making memorials. You have to have very, very good oratory skills, because the more expressive you are, the more fluent you are able to express what you want to convey very, very elucidly. So second most important skill is oratory skill that you learn from mooting. And the third skill is of interpersonal relations, or you can also call it networking. Believe me, when you will go to different places for participating in moot courts, for organizing the moot courts, you'll get to meet many, many advocates, and you'll get to make many, many friends. Today, people here, Sabyasachi, Suruchi, Abhay, all of these people have been friends since my organizing days, and we have made a strong bond over organizing and participating. So these moot courts are something which help you grow your interpersonal skills, which are very important in your professional life. And that I think everyone would agree with. So why moot court? Why moot court is very simply put that it will enhance your 3 core skills, and it will help you develop the interpersonal skills that you should have to follow in your professional life. Now, last thing which I would also like to address is, because I have been on the executive committee, Abhay here has been on the executive committee. When you are on the organizing side of the moot court, don't just participate, also be on the organizing side. we have the privilege of hosting KK Luthra Moot Court competition, which is one of the best international criminal law moot court competitions. It is one of the best competitions and one of the best exposures that one can get. We get to host it and we get to be on the other side of it. So you get to learn a lot of things, not just what you have to do, but also what you don't have to do. When you see other counsels arguing, you see what you don't have to do when they are presenting their case, or you also learn what you should do while presenting your case. So, and also the friendships that are forged over organizing. Why you should come into the Moot Court Society. It is one of the niche societies of Campus Law Center. Everyone would say otherwise. Other people would say that other societies are great, but believe me, Moot Court Society is the nichest society of all. And I think learned teacher member, when he was addressing, he also said that. And it's true. Believe me, when you're part of the society, you feel it. You feel that aura. So I won't stress beyond this. I would just say that own the society, be a part of it, and give yourself to the society. You'll get a lot out of it. Thank you.
Well, one of the things, one of the traits which you learn being a mooter is thinking on your feet, being spontaneous, which is right now I'm doing, because Karthik has taken all the points which I've come with. And now I have to think on my feet and start. So before commencing, I would like to thank Parleen ma'am, Anita ma'am, Apanjot ma'am for thinking that we are worthy of being here, and for Suruchi, Sabachhachi and Shrikant to be so kind to invite us here. And the participating team today, Shaurya, Madhav, Arushi and Astha, you've done a very commendable job today. And it's great to see you guys around. So not wasting much of your time, I will just jump to what this Moot Court Society has given me through these 3 years. Maybe after the 3 years, one of the initial things which I felt that MC has given me was when I first appeared in the court. My senior asked me, okay, go and take a Passover. I went, I took a Passover. It was very normal. I was like, my lordship, please give me a Passover. And it's very easy for all of us, the MCS guys. But I was having a discussion with other friends, and they were like, we were having hiccups. Bhai, hum kaise jayenge, hum kaise appear honge? I was like, it's very normal. Kya karna kya hai? So the thing is, when you start appearing before the judges in the MCS or the mooting, tumhe itni grilling ho jati hai that you have no fears appearing before the honorable judge. You feel like you're having a conversation with him. You're telling a story to him, like, okay, this is the reason and this is what I want. And that's the reason that we are able to argue very early in our stage. I'm not saying that other advocates won't be doing that, but as a member of MCS, we as this society, we start arguing very early. I've seen Karthik arguing in district courts, and he's very eager to go around. And even I'm very eager to go around and argue, because that's what we've been trained to do that. So yes, that's the part. And yes, talking about the skills, which Karthik already said, drafting, research, and what was the other one? Oratory skills, yes. So for the oratory part, I would say you have many other options, like you can do the parliamentary debates, or you can also do the MUNs. But per se, doing the moot court, you will also have that area in which you have, you have that frame, which you will not get in the parliamentary debates and all. So that's why moot courts have an edge over the other oratory participations and all. And besides that, you will learn a lot of skills. Karthik, you have been a great leader, and we have been great followers. And there were many times when there were many tricky positions when we had to manage a lot of things. We were there, like Karthik rightly put, when we were organizing KK Luthra for 3 years, we used to stay like 2 or 3 in the night, putting out tents. कि tent कैसे लगवाना है, वहाँ पे फूल कहाँ लगवाना है, and these kind of skills which you will gain here, I think no society will offer you this. So yes, that's a part of it. And besides that, I would like to add that mooting is you must not focus on one aspect of it. There are other aspects, as Suruchi and Savachachi know, that the ADR part that you may explore in this moot court society, which includes the arbitration moots, the mediation competition, and the negotiation competition. Your seniors will be there to mentor you, will be there to help you out, like our seniors were there, and your teachers will be pumping you up and supporting you all through it. So you're gonna have a great journey ahead. Best of luck to all of you, and cheers.
Thank you so much, Abhay and Karthik. I'm sure it was a great hearing from you all about your experience as an avid mooters and your experience as the executive member of the society, not only taking part in the moots, but also organizing the moot for the students. And we as at Moot Court Society highly encourage our members and all the students of Campus Law Center to not only participate in mooting, but also be the part of the organizing committee. You can volunteer for the society. We conduct internal moot courts, and you can take part as the court master in the internal moot courts. So moving ahead, as most of you have already been aware of that, to become the member of the Moot Court Society, we conduct 2 induction moots. That is the common induction moot, which is open for all the 3-year members. And the problem of the common induction moot is based on criminal jurisprudence and criminal law. And there is freshers induction moot, which is exclusively open for the first-year students. And it revolves around the civil law area of contract and torts, which is taken up in your first semester itself. So to give you a heads up, because of the unprecedented time and COVID around, we had to conduct CIM because we were unsure as to when the first years will be admitted to the campus. Therefore, we would like to announce the dates of the freshers induction moot, and that is 27th of February, the last weekend of February. After this orientation program, we will be releasing a schedule of the freshers induction moot. We have put up certain contact details of our executive members, and you may contact any of us if you have any queries regarding the induction process. This session was just to make you understand about what a moot court is and give you basic idea about mooting. However, we will be taking up various sessions, training sessions and workshops, and we will help you prepare for your induction moot, so you don't have to worry about it. And that will be all from my end. If we have any questions from the first years, you can either unmute yourself or you can write it on the chat box. For those who are accessing this program live on Facebook, you can type your questions or queries on the comment section, and we will take up the questions from there. You may also email us at mootcourtsociety.clc@gmail.com. If you don't have any query right now, we can take up the query later. You can email us. Okay, so there's one question on the chat box as to how does one apply or register for the induction moot. Now, I'm just going to give you the roadmap of how we are going to conduct the freshers induction moot. After this orientation session, we will be releasing a detailed schedule of the freshers induction moot. Therein, we will be notifying you about the date on which we will be releasing the moot problem, which is also called the moot compromise. Now, we will also release a registration form. After you analyze the moot compromise, you will have to decide which side you want to represent. Now, just a little clarification here. What you just saw right now, the demonstration, what actually happens in a moot court competition. However, we deviate a little bit from this structure in our induction moot, and you don't have to pair up in a team, or you don't have to take up both the sides there. You just have every member who wishes to get inducted to Freshers Induction Moot has to participate individually. You just have to choose one side, either the petitioner or the respondent side. And then there's a registration link. Once you have decided which side you want to represent after analyzing the problem, you may choose your side and mention it on the registration form. You may mention it on the registration. Am I audible? Sorry. Yeah. Okay. So you may mention it in the registration form. After that, you will have to submit your written memorials, and then we proceed with the oral arguments. So the date for the oral arguments is 27th of February. All the details will be given in the notice about all the schedules and also the workshops that will be taking up with you guys. So that will be all from my end. No, there's no age limit or preference to be the part of MCS or similar condition. Thank you. Yes, we will be hosting the FIM virtually. Okay, before we take up the questions, I would just request our teacher member, Ms. Rubina Grewal, to deliver the vote of thanks.
Very good evening to everyone. On behalf of the Moot Court Society, I'd like to thank Mr. Kartik Lahoti and Mr. Abhay Singh, who've taken out the time to be with us today. Thank you for being the judges for today's demonstration moot and sharing your experiences with the students. This event has been organized by the students of MCS. So Suruchi and the team, well done. Kudos for organizing such a great event for the first year students. Considering the circumstances we are in, you have still managed to do all of this virtually, which is great. We'd like to thank our Honorable Professor in charge, Professor Raman Mittal, for his constant guidance and support. All the teacher members of the MCS, Dr. Harleen, Dr. Anita, Harris, Mehpara, Ms. Apanjo, Dr. Bijoy, thank you for guiding the students all the time. I'm sure the first year students have benefited from the moot court demonstration and the interactive session with the experienced mooters that we have here today. You're also now well aware of the mooting process and all the upcoming events. I'm sure you will be bringing laurels to the CLC mooting in the mooting field as your seniors have done over the past years. Thank you everyone who've taken out the time to attend today's MCS orientation program. Have a great evening and thank you all for joining us today virtually. Thank you.
Thanks, Rubina. Thank you so much. Thanks, Kartik, and thanks, Abhay, for joining us. Though formally, ma'am has given vote of thanks, so unofficially, I would also like to say thanks to you for taking out time and being here. It's a pleasure to hear you. And
thank you so much.
God bless you and keep
Yes,
shining the way you always shined in the Campus Law Center.
Thank you.
So thank you, sir.
Please. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank
So
you,
you can
Rubina
take the
ma'am.
queries, I believe.
Yes, so whoever has any queries, you can put it in the chat box or they can unmute and tell us. All the executive members will be present in the meeting and we will be addressing all the queries. Thank you.
All right. Can I speak if it's feasible?
Go ahead, Hardik. Hi.
Yeah, a very good evening to everyone. Thank you for such an effective session. It was lovely looking at each and every technicalities that we could figure it out. A small query I wanted to know, the legal terminologies that were being stated by each and every, it might be if the prosecution or it might be from the defense side, how do we go by with this flow? Because being as a fresher, eventually if it might be from a contract or a tort or from a crime background, we are not aware much, just the sections, but not the basic terminologies that were being stated. So was it more like mugging up and then going with the process, or is it like an straightforward when it sounds of like a click on, then you have to reciprocate to the lordships? Just a small query. Thank you.
Hi. So Ed, does anybody like to take the question? So Ruchi, I think personally speaking, if I could say, I could answer that. This particular one thing, I don't. Nobody expects a first year to to know these particular terminologies, and this particular all these jargons and everything. It only comes up as and when you start the process. So if when you start looking at videos, when you start looking at your counterparts, your seniors, when you start watching moots, then if you watch it like maybe 10-15 times, you'll automatically understand what the flow of the language is. So, and when you start mooting also, even in the FIM, when you start, even the judges also are aware that you might not be aware, but they're just looking for if there is that legal acumen which can create those arguments. So these jargons and technicalities, it's a slow process. So it will come up to you in maybe in the second year or third year, you will have that kind of a prowess as in when you get into the process. So
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay, can I go ahead with my question?
Yes, Nikhil, yes, tell me.
So I had one query with regard, it's on the similar lines like Hardik asked. How do we really prepare, and what is the criteria for the selection?
All right. So the judging criteria, there are certain benchmarks which are being set. So Ruchi, will we be disclosing the score sheet, or will we be telling them how will they be marked?
Yeah. So as I mentioned that you have to submit your memorials, which is also called written submissions. Then you have to present your oral arguments before a bench or a panel of judges. So the selection is done on the basis of what you score on your written submissions, and also there is certain marking on the oral arguments. So there's certain cutoff. We will not be disclosing that currently, but once the problem is released, the rules of the induction moot is also attached with the problem. Therein you will find all the details about the selection criteria and how a participant gets selected through the induction moot.
Okay. So right now, as of now, with the sessions, since they resumed a little late, we have not got any drafting skills as of yet. So going ahead with the memorial at this junction, would it suffice? How do we know that?
As I stated earlier, so we will be conducting various sessions. We, as an executive members, all of will be available there to help you out, help you prepare with your induction moot. We will conduct various sessions on drafting and how to do legal research, and also how to orally present your case before the bench. So currently, you don't have to worry about anything. You just wait for the moot problem to be released. We will also be taking session as to how you can read the moot problem, how to create a structure and a roadmap of your arguments. So I understand that the session has started late, but we can just assure you that we will be there. All the executive members will be there to help you out with your preparation.
Yeah, possibly. With the flow, maybe we get on to the traction. But right now, it's just the anxiety,
There are tons of videos available on the moot court competitions and basics of mootings online on YouTube. Meanwhile, you can check them out. You can maybe take up one problem and just try to analyze how a moot court works. That will definitely help you out for now.
Are any draft memorials available on the Moot Court Society's page?
So we had uploaded the orientation moot problem. After this session, we will upload 2 of the memorials that were prepared by our speakers of the demonstration moot. After a certain period, we will also be releasing sample memorials from last year's FIM and CIM, and it will give you a basic idea as to how you can prepare your written submissions, that is memorials.
Okay, that will be very helpful, and that answers my question also. Thank you.
Thank you.
If I may ask a question. I have just a small clarification to ask you. Could you please clarify on the timings of the session that you're planning to take? Because if we have prior commitments and all, we'll try to free up that timing and go about it.
So we will release the notices about the workshops like well in advance, at least 48 hours before we plan to conduct those sessions. So, however, we will also try to record and make the recording available on our Facebook pages. So in case you have a prior commitment and you couldn't attend that session, the video will be available on our Facebook page. I think that is the benefit of hosting all the
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Suruchi, I think there are some. I think there are some questions in the chat box as well. We might have to address those.
I'm so sorry, there's some background noise. Can anybody else take up such questions? I'll just have to.
How many students will be selected from the first year?
Ria, we don't have a benchmark or any kind of like a maximum limit or anything, as it depends on the performance of the students and it depends on the judges. So there's no limit to the number of students who will be admitted.
All right, thanks.
So I think I'll just address a couple of questions. Tanuj and Nikhil have the same question as to how to prepare for a moot court as a first-year student. I think Suruchi has explained that we will be having multiple discussions and sessions where we will be explaining how orals and these written submissions have to be made and have to abide by the criteria which are provided. So you don't need to worry about that, and all the executive committee members will be available. You will the update, the notice which will be sent to you after this meeting that has the contact numbers of 4 of the executive members. You can contact them anytime with your queries. So I hope that helps your query, Tanuj and Nikhil. Further, Dipanshi says, will we be selected for the MCS on the basis of our performance in the freshers moot court? That is correct. So the FIM, that is the freshers, is the induction moot. You will be selected through your oral rounds and the total marks for the oral rounds and the written submissions. That is how you will be inducted to the Moot Court Society. The benchmarks for these marks will be released later and we'll be disclosing them later. Nikhil says, what is the criteria of selection? I think that is yet to be discussed. I think we will be giving you a proper layout of how you will be selected. Broadly speaking, it's divided into the written submissions and the oral submissions. If you want the clear bifurcations, I think that will take some more time. We will have internal discussions amongst us and then get back to you for the same. Further, okay, Shubham Saini says, who is he? Wonderful. I don't know who that is. Yashvendra Tomar, last day to apply for this society. So the registration date, all these dates, any kind of information, all information will be provided in the notice. So I'd request everybody to please go through the notice properly. And the last date for the application for the registration has also been provided in the notice itself. Is there a time limit for the written submission? As that will be specified in the notice, I believe it will be. If not, we will be putting in proper instructions of how many pages the written submission can be. As long as I remember, during my year, it was, I think, 20, 25. I'm not sure. It varies. I think the maximum is 25 pages. It might be 20. It depends on the rules. That will be released in a couple of days.
Sorry, one thing I just want to add. Just one thing, if there is some detail, date / instruction that is not there in the notice, don't worry, we will constantly be updating our Facebook page with instructions, with subsequent notices, rules, addendums, etc., and all those things will be made clear to you in due time, with enough time for you to do your preparation, etc., etc.
Well, I think Suruchi had suggested that we will be posting the last year memorials and all reference memorials on the Moot Court website itself. Is that correct, Suruchi? That's correct. Is there a WhatsApp group for MCS? Yes, there is, but the new inductees will be joining the WhatsApp group after the induction process is completed. Shankar, is there a query? I think you've unmuted. Shankar Dayal Singla. Shankar, could you please unmute your mic? Sorry, mute your mic.
Can the host of the meeting unmute Shankar?
Thank you.
Yeah. Sorry.
Shivangi, there is no word limit for a written memorial, but there is a page limit, which we will be telling you in a couple of days. So, Ruchi, is there a final say on that? How many pages?
No. So actually, there is no page limit per se, but actually there is a page limit, and it's mentioned in the rules that will be released along with the moot compromise very soon.
So, Dolly, second year students cannot be part of the FIM. The second year students can be part of the CIM. Although the CIM has been conducted for this year, but second years can take part. The CIM is conducted every year. So second year members can take part in the CIM. The FIM is exclusive for first year members only. Shubham Saini is asking for the Instagram handle and the Facebook handle. Shrikant, I request you to please put it in the chat box if we can put the handles so that we can start.
Can we also take up some questions if there are any on the comment section of the live stream? Shrikant, can you take up such questions?
Let me just check it.
Yeah.
By the time I put the Instagram and the Facebook handles in the chat box already, so if anyone of you wants to follow it, please follow it. All the details will be shared there itself. Suruchi, I don't think there are any questions on the Facebook.
Madhu, would you like to take up the query regarding the argue action in the chat box?
As some of you guys may have noticed that we had released an argue action moot for non-MCS members. The argue action moot, the deadline for submission of memorials is Feb 15th, and the moot itself will take place on 20th and 21st of February. While there is no automatic disqualification from the Moot Court Society, people who are participating in the argue action moot can participate in the FIM. However, whether you are able to manage both is entirely up to you. So if you feel that your participation in the argue action moot will affect your preparation for the FIM, then you are expected to take a call based on your priorities.
Just a suggestion, should we be telling them what an MCS member and a non-MCS member, what's the difference between them?
Okay, in very brief, so to become the member of the Moot Court Society, as already stated, you have to get inducted through either FIM or CIM, that is Freshers Induction Moot or Common Induction Moot. If by any chance you couldn't qualify any of the induction moot for that academic year, we do open moot competitions for our non-MCS members, as has been recently opened the argue action moot. So any student who is not a member of the Moot Court Society can participate in the moot court competitions that are exclusively opened for the non-MCS members.
Madhav, we have withdrawn our application. Please make a note of it. I've just mailed.
Yeah, so any first years who have applied for the argue action moot and have to withdraw, the deadline is tomorrow 12 p.m. So if you guys feel that you can participate in both argue action and FIM, you're most welcome to. If you feel that for some reason you guys will not be able to manage both, then please by 12 p.m. tomorrow send in your withdrawals. After that, you will be deemed to have taken confirmed your participation for the internals. Thanks.
Are there any more questions, people? Any questions in the Facebook comments we were going for?
I think Ajit has raised this question. Fine.
Okay, so Sonal and Ajit are asking for the argue action moot link.
So I'll brief the argue action link. So Sonal has asked a question, what is the argue action moot? So about a couple of weeks back, less than a couple of weeks back, the Moot Court Society had released a moot that is being organized by an organization called Argue Action for non-MCS members. There were first years who had applied for it, and right now they had certain queries with regard to the clashing schedules of Argue Action as well as FIM. So that is what was being discussed. With regard to the link to the Argue Action moot, you are requested to go through the CLC's Facebook page. There you will find all the details with regards to the argue action moot. However, the deadline to apply for the same has passed already. So in case some team has not applied and wants to apply for it and throw in its chit, so to say, for the internals process, it cannot do so anymore.
May I, my name is Sachin. May I interrupt and ask a quick question?
Sure, Sachin.
Okay, so I and about 5 others and probably 7 others, we were under the foreign students quota. And it's just in the last 3 days that we have been actually given our access and everything. So we basically missed the deadline on just about everything. So I was wondering if you guys would be willing to make an exception, because at least 2 of us would like to apply.
So yeah, for the is this for the argue action thing we were discussing about, Sachin?
Okay, so I probably missed out on something. I just want to make sure that the moot court, and there was another one, that DDS. I think I missed the one out in the DDS because I just never got around to it. These are the ones that I am personally interested in. I cannot speak for others on that.
All right. So as far as the moot court is concerned, you haven't left out any deadlines. No deadlines have expired. All the deadlines will be beginning in a couple of days, and we will be intimating about the deadlines in a couple of days. The registration process will start in maybe 10-12 days. So the Moot Court Society are right on time to get admitted into CLC. There's no problem. As long as the DDS is concerned, I think I can redirect you to some other executive member from the society if they can help you out. Suruchi, is there a person? If we can maybe put in his contact number in the chat box so that maybe he can have a word with the executive member.
Yes, I think Shrikant, could you put up the contact numbers of the conveners of the DDS so that Sachin and his colleagues can
Yes, just give me a brief moment. Can I just put in the number and can you guys save it?
Just put in the name and the number, and Sachin, you can contact this person for any queries regarding the DDS society.
Fantastic, thanks.
Yeah.
How do we become an executive member after being a part of this MCS society?
Well, that's a very interesting question.
Pick up that question. Yeah, Shaurya.
So hi everyone, I'm Shaurya, and to become an executive member, this is an altogether different process. So there is this application form which comes out. Of course, when you've been second year, only then you can become an executive member as per the rules that we have currently. So once you're in second year, there will be an application form that comes out. You fill it out, then there will be an interview process being conducted by the teacher members, and once that is done, and if you pass that interview, you'll become the executive members. To become the executive members, however, I would like to tell you guys that we do look at the work that you do as your first year members, how many moots you have participated in, that is helped the Moot Court Society in organizing, how many moots you have participated in as participants, how many you are there. We'll be asking in the groups itself that if there is anyone free to act as the court master and everything. So once these messages come, you have to volunteer as much as you can. So we'll be looking all these parameters, basically how much of the service you can dedicate to Moot Court Society and what all you can contribute. These are the factors which are primarily in consideration once you apply for the executive post of Moot Court Society. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
There is a couple of queries regarding the argue action moot. First years can apply, but yes, since the deadline is over, if you wanted to apply, we are sorry, we cannot extend the deadline any further.
Aren't there any queries on the Facebook comments, Shrikant? You're muted. You're muted.
Shrikant, you're muted.
There aren't any queries.
There aren't any queries.
So if there are, we'll be continuing this meeting for maybe a couple more minutes. If there are any queries, you can just put it in the chat box, or else we can end this meeting.
Also, just to add, if there are any queries later, please feel free to mail the Moot Court Society at moot, M-O-O-T, court, spelled the usual way, society, spelled the usual way, .clc@gmail.com. I'll just put it on the chat box as well. If there are any queries, please feel free to mail us. We will get back to you promptly.
Also, guys, just to reinforce that this entire session was to give you a glimpse as to what happens in an actual moot court competition. You don't have to worry about how you will be preparing, how you'll be drafting, how to research, or how to argue before the courts. We'll be conducting multiple workshops from now on. So just be active on the various social media handles and follow these handles so you'll be aware that when a workshop is being conducted, just participate in those workshops. And if you have any queries, you'll be more than happy to resolve these in those workshops. And Madhav has already put up the email ID also. If you have any queries, you'll be doing that. So just be there, stay active with the Moot Court Society, participate in all the workshops, and you all will probably do very well in the freshers induction mode also.
Okay, so there's a question from Om that can an executive member take part in moot court competitions? Yes, unless it is KK Luthra, in which case you have to either opt to be in the organizing committee, or you can take part in the KK Luthra moot court competition. Otherwise, any competitions that are not hosted by CLC, executive members are equally they're equally eligible to take part. They're not, neither they are in a position of disadvantage, nor are they in a position of advantage with respect to that. So LC2 students cannot participate in FIM. This Moot Court Society of the Campus Law Center is restricted to students of the Campus Law Center. There is a...
Yeah. I think Hardik has a query about, so Hardik, the notice will, at present, the notice will be carrying all the necessary dates for you, including the registration, the moot compromise release, the moot problem, which will be released in a couple of days, and the deadlines for the submissions and the oral rounds. All those dates will be there. The technicalities and details for how the written submissions have to be done and how the oral rounds will be conducted, that will be released in the problem itself, and the problem will be released in a couple of days. So all these details will be attached to the problem itself. Is that correct, Suruchi? Anything else?
Yes. The problem, the rules, and the registration form will be released on the same day, and it will have all the details regarding the freshers induction moot. And after that, also we will take up sessions. If you have any queries, you can contact any of us regarding the FIM. We'll take up your queries then.
Any more questions, people? Any?
So Ashish, you can, one, we would advise you, if you want to take part in moot court competitions, we would suggest that you take maybe workshops, classes, or participate in public speaking competitions to improve your English presentation skills. Secondly, there are certain moots that are Hindi moots that are organized over the year, which we also circulate as the MCS. So you could always try your hand in that. And thirdly, when it comes to being part of the executive committee of the Moot Court Society, English presentation is not a prerequisite. Your dedication to the society and the amount of volunteer work that you have done in your first year will be the primary factors that will be taken into account while considering your application to be a part of an EC member. As an EC member, you will essentially be handling all the administrative work of the society, and you can you can contribute from that perspective.
Also, Ashish, I would just like to add that if you due to whatever reasons, the current law in India is that if you wish to practice in high courts or the Supreme Court, English is the only language that they will allow pleadings in. So if you have a plan, if anybody has a plan to do that, we would suggest that you participate with the Moot Court Society, because we are not here judging people. We'll help you improve your English. So we'll also try to do that. You can contact us. We'll very much like to help you with this particular issue, and we'll help any person who wants to do that. Feel free to contact us in any manner. And like Madhav has already told you guys, there are various other teams basically formed, which you can participate in to show your dedication to MCS basically. So there is a lot of other things other than public speaking and oratory skills, for which oratory skills are not required basically. So just be active, like I said, and you will see yourself what are the various opportunities with which you can do so.
And one more thing that I forgot to point out, typically in moot court competitions, there are 3 members in a team, 2 people are speakers, and there's 1 researcher. So when it comes to the actual moot, the researcher does not have to present English pleadings in English. The job of the researcher, as the name suggests, is to help draft the memorial, do case law research and things like that. So that is one way you can take part in moot court competitions, make yourself active in the circuit, and you could join teams, prove yourself as a good researcher, join them in the researcher capacity. And I know for a fact, we all know as mooters, it is very difficult to find good researchers. So if that turns out to be a knack, you will probably be in more demand than a good speaker will be.
If there are any other questions, we can maybe end the meeting in a minute, if that's...
Yeah. We will be taking up, like, if there is any questions or doubts or queries, we will extend this meeting for another 1 minute, and then we'll end this meeting.
Yeah. So there's one, Suruchi. So to be a good researcher, 2 things: intern with the lawyer who practices in a court. They will give you a lot of research work and you will slowly learn. That's how we all did. And number 2, read as much as you can. Read commentaries, read books in general, read the newspaper, read case laws. That'll really help you pick yourself as a good researcher. And being a good researcher is important even when you start practicing, because that is where bulk of your time will be going into as a practitioner. So read, and maybe intern under lawyers. These are 2 things that will help you become a good researcher.
Hello, Suruchi. Yeah, can I ask a question, please?
Go ahead, Ajit.
Yeah, Suruchi, you have mentioned the 27th Feb. I have just not listened properly. Can you please explain this once again?
Yeah. So as I mentioned, to become the member of the Moot Court Society, we conduct Freshers Induction Moot, which is exclusively open for the first-year members. So the dates for the Freshers Induction Moot is 27th of February. That is the last weekend of the month. We will be releasing the schedule soon after this meeting. It will have all the dates, relevant dates, that is date for the release of the moot problem, the deadline for the registration, submission of memorials, and the oral arguments. So yeah, that is all about the date.
Okay.
Does that clear your query?
Yeah. Okay. The Freshers Moot Court induction program.
Yes, the Freshers Induction program.
Okay. One thing, I have just checked the Facebook site. Here is a Moot Court Society notification for the argue that whatever is 29th of January was the last date.
Argue action.
But, yeah. So we haven't got that information on time because casually we don't give give many times on the social media. We cannot, you all guys don't put the information on the notification of the official site, that is Moot Court Society on the CLC.
Regarding the argue action moot, the people who have not been able to register, I would nothing to worry. You'll be getting plenty of opportunities. The MCS opens. If you're a member of the MCS, then well and good. You will all the moots which the MCS gets the option of, you will be offered to participate. Secondly, all those members who are not being able to be part of the MCS, even then the MCS host multiple non-MCS moots as well. So it's just a moot. For the first years who have not been able to participate in that, no problem. You'll be getting an opportunity to be inducted in the society. So FIM, so focus on our FIM. Secondly, we would request everyone to follow our Facebook page and social and Instagram page, because it sometimes get difficult to host to upload information on the website. However, our Facebook page and Instagram page is extremely active, so all the information is available over there.
Also, one thing that I'd like to add is that we can understand the enthusiasm of first years because you joined almost half a semester late to participate in the first mooting opportunity that has been presented to you. However, we would personally tell you not to rush it. We would encourage you to focus your energies on the freshers induction moot, because by chance you dedicate your energies to that, because once you get inducted to the society, you will literally receive emails from us on a daily basis, and you will probably be deleting most of our mails because we open over 100 moot court competitions in a year, right? Moot court competitions, ADR, negotiation, client competitions, client counseling, things like that. So you'll have many more opportunities as an MCS member than as a non-MCS member. So you would suggest that all of you please focus your energies on getting into the society through the FIM.
The current Instagram ID that I'm looking at has just 2 posts. Is that the one? I think Shrikant, you posted the one Instagram ID. It just has 2 posts.
Yeah, it's a recent one. It's a recent page. So we are active on it. We just made it active since the last KK Luthra competition.
Oh.
Yes, all right. Yes, that's the one. The 2 posts on that. Yeah, that's it.
Okay.
All right, I have a small query again. Sorry to bother again. But one thing I wanted to notice, Saurabh had questioned regarding whether the people from LC2 could join this moot. So is it a subdivision that only the CLC people will join the moot and not the LC1 and LC2?
Only CLC students.
All right, so the
only to CLC students. In our moots, induction moots, or any competitions that we organize, any volunteer work that we open for students, LC1 and LC students are not allowed to participate. It is exclusively the reserve of CLC students.
If I may, see, LC1 and LC2 have their own moot court societies. All right, LC1 and LC2 have their own society, so they conduct these events there. What we are conducting as moot court society of CLC is exclusively restricted for the students and the members of the moot court society of CLC. Even the KK Luthra moot court competition that will be opened is only there for CLC students. So whatever we are doing is restricted to only CLC, and the other LC1, LC2, they have their own executive committee, and they will be doing their own recruitment and inductions and everything.
All right, noted. Thank you.
So we will be ending this meeting now. And once again, I would like to welcome all the first years to Campus Law Center, and I hope that you have amazing 3 years here. And I really encourage each and every one of you to participate in the freshers induction moot, because for this academic year, sadly, that is the only way you can get inducted to the society. If not, we will be, as mentioned, we open moot court competitions for non-MCS members. You can participate, or you can also participate in the capacity of a researcher with other MCS members as the speakers. And I would like to end the meeting here unless anyone else has any query or anything to say. So happy mooting, everyone, and hopefully, we had to interact with you virtually, but we will definitely meet you all once the college reopens.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Happy mooting.
Thank you. Thank you.
I think we can end it for all, should we?
I think everybody could exit on their own.
Rishika, I think you can stop the recording as well.
My screen has frozen. I'll try it once again. Wait.
Okay, I think it's only EC members besides Shankar and Priya. I think we can end the meeting only.